Hey, as you can tell by my shirt, if you're watching this episode, if you're listening to it, then what are you doing? You should be watching it. It's going to be great. I'm excited to have Coach Mark Berokoff on from the Oklahoma City University Stars. We're going to talk a little bit about his journey. We're going to get into talking about his player here from Utah, YG, how the season's been going. I'm really excited. I got to go visit their campus and watch the team play. It's a beautiful campus. It's a great city, and I'm excited to have Coach on. So let's get to it. This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School Hoops scene. With your host, Adam Meek. Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, or whatever time it is that you were deciding to listen or watch this. You made a great decision. If you've gotten to this point, you've really made a great decision. This is going to be a fantastic interview. I'm joined here, if you can see on the screen, by Coach Mark Berokoff. Coach, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is awesome. Been looking forward to doing this for a while. I'm glad we finally connected.
We finally connected. It was so great to be able to go out there. So when I went out with AJ, so that was my first time in Oklahoma City. Super underrated city, just in general. I thought I literally have traveled all around the world for my full-time job. I've been in a lot of cities in the U.S. and I was like, I get why people like this city. I get why they'd want to come here. How long have you been in Oklahoma City, Coach?
Wow. So I want to say 12 years now. Yeah, for a Southern California guy, born and raised, Oklahoma City has gotten so much better. I married my wife in 95 and she's from Oklahoma City. And from the time I started dating her to now, the city's exploded. I mean, I want to say there was an article that was out that Oklahoma City is one of the fastest rising cities to move to. We've got beautiful neighborhoods here. I mean, you've got the Oklahoma City Thunder, the OKC Baseball Club, which is now the Dodgers AAA team. Yeah,
I didn't know that. You're a huge Dodgers fan. I didn't know that was a connection. That had to be like an amazing. Are you a season ticket holder? You got to be
crazy to have the AAA team of the Dodgers 10 minutes from my house. So, yeah, but Oklahoma City is really a really cool spot, and I'm a Southern California guy, so I actually really like Oklahoma City, and I've loved it. I've loved my time here.
And, I think there's an underrated component of cities is what can you drive to? And so I drove up from Dallas and I was like, it's not a bad drive. It's a couple hours, I think, to get down. You got a major international airport. The airport in Oklahoma City was awesome. I flew out of there. There's just some really, I just thought there was some cool stuff. Apparently they're trying to build the largest tower in the United States or the world or something there. I don't know. I saw some news article about it. We don't have to.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to go because our wind is there's so much wind here. I don't know how that's going to all fly, but yeah, that is the talk.
It would be an architectural marvel for sure.
Right.
Well, I know that part of your history, and we'll get into, kind of the current season with connection here to Utah. But part of your history is, I believe you were Tim Drisdom's high school coach. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I was Tim's high school coach and his AAU coach.
Was that the Rockfish? Is that what it was?
Los Angeles Rockfish. That is correct. Yeah, Tim and I go back to 2000.
Okay.
So we won a CIF championship his junior year, and his senior year we got upset in the semifinals, but I have a really good connection. So Tim obviously I coached, but with University of Utah when Majerus was there, Tim played for Utah, and then Richard Cheney, Bryant Markson, Justin Hawkins. I mean, we're all kind of connected, and Coach Majerus was really good to me and young in my career. Actually helped me get a good job out in California after I left Calvary Chapel. And Coach Majerus was really good to me, and Jeff Strom, who was an assistant, I still remained a really good relationship with Coach Strom. So there's a really good connection between me and Utah. So
that's cool. And there's a very real familial sort of I'll say brotherhood, but it's been cool to see the advancements that women are having in the game as well. And so we'll use the term brotherhood because I know it's been used before, but it's like there's just an interconnectedness, I feel like, to coaches that's a bond that very few industries really share, it seems like. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And I think I actually go to church with Richard Cheney, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah.
that's fun out here. Well, how did you get interested in basketball? So, like I said, I know just from social media that you're a huge baseball fan. Is that something you always grew up around? Was it the Showtime Lakers that, just tell me, like, how did you get to love the game?
Growing up in Southern California, obviously, yes, Laker fan, Rams fan, Dodger fan, you name it, everything. We're all for LA, other than the Clippers. No one's a Clipper fan. I don't know any Clipper fans except for
Bill
one.
Simmons. Bill Simmons is a Clippers fan, right?
Bill Simmons. No, you know what? I grew up playing basketball.
Okay.
I played high school basketball at Whittier Christian High School. Played college basketball at Nebraska Christian College. My dad played football in college. My dad was a football coach. My brother and my younger brother, who's a high school coach in Southern California, we grew up playing soccer, basketball, football, and we all, like in typical all Southern California kids, you get to that 8th grade point and you decide, are you going to play soccer, football, basketball? And both my brother and I chose football, or I chose football and basketball and baseball. He chose basketball, but we grew up playing basketball. But my love for the Dodgers has always been since I was a little kid. I mean, I was born and raised a Dodger fan, going to the games. When you coach so much basketball, you got to have an outlet, and the Dodgers are my outlet. I mean, I know the 18 and 17-year-olds that the Dodgers just signed with in the Dominican, all the way up. I'm a diehard, probably too much of a diehard. It probably overtakes my life, but just growing up as a Southern California kid, as a Southern California kid, you're always rooting for the LA teams. So that's kind of a little bit how I got into it. Hopefully that explains a little bit of my passion.
Right, except the Clippers. And what about the Chargers? Where do the Chargers land? Or the Angels? Are these all kind of just like, well, you can root for them if you want to. But.
No, I don't root for the Angels, Chargers, any of those. No.
Got it. It's fair. It's fair. Well, let me ask you a question about that, because I think this is really interesting. So you've been around the game for so long, and you talk about growing up playing multiple sports, and I was the same way. I did everything. I mean, it didn't matter if it was ping pong or football or flag football or basketball or baseball or karate. I just remember doing stuff all the time. And even when I got to high school, I played 3 sports. Have you noticed now, that you're coaching and you're in a college, that are kids focusing, and kind of like specializing maybe a bit early, or has that do you think that's helped the game in some ways as well? It's not binary, I don't think, right? It's not just like this is bad. Like, I hate when people are like the past was great and the present sucks, because that's never true. There's always good and bad about both of them. But just talk to me about that. Are you seeing what are you seeing, I guess, with kids today when they come up to the college ranks? Because it's hard to play NAIA basketball. We'll get into that here in a second, but it's not a walk in the park for sure.
So I think you could. When I was a kid, we were on the street playing, like in the front yard, and playing football when between the 2 light poles, and then we'd go into our driveway and we were shooting in the driveway. And then we were getting yelled at from our parents playing wiffle ball in the front yard and, ruining the grass where the batter's box are. You just don't see that anymore with kids playing outside. Now, you're saying past and the future. Yes. I mean, things are a little different now. Kids have more access to indoor facilities. We didn't have that. It was like we would sneak into gyms, and hopefully the janitor or security didn't find us. And we would, that was like the biggest moment of our lives, is sneaking in. Like, we snuck into Biola University all the time, and we always knew the door that was open, and to go play indoors was like a big moment for us.
Yeah.
Yes, kids are specializing in sports. I'm not going to say I'm on the fence either way. Like, if you want to specialize, that's their choice. I really like all the different kids that play different sports. When I coached high school basketball, I loved when my guys played football. Maybe from the simple point of, I played high school football, so I liked going to the games and watching them play and standing on the sidelines. But I always liked them doing different things. but today, right now, I mean, kids are playing. They're playing summer ball. They're playing fall ball. They're playing their high school season. They take a couple of weeks off and they're right into it right after the playoffs. That's good or bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's every kid's and parent's choice, but I definitely see specialization quite a bit now. I like the multiple sport athlete. I like when I'm recruiting a kid and he said, yeah, I played high school football, or I played baseball, I played soccer. But that's just me personally. I don't think there's anything wrong either way.
Right. I was reminded of an interview with Steve Nash where he talked about, somebody asked him, how do you see the floor so well? And he said, well, I grew up playing soccer. And the interviewer was kind of like, well, oh, okay, well, what is that? And, he just talked about seeing angles. And, when you're playing midfield, it's a lot like playing point guard. And, there's also scientific articles out there about repetitive motion injuries and things like that. So there is data, I think, to support, what you're saying is what you're talking about. But it's harder because it's almost as though every sport is, like, to be a football player now, they've got these 7-on-7 things and they've got year-round lifting. And so I get it, right? I mean, parents, it's a tough deal. And I think you're right. Just make the best decision for you, for your family, for your kid. Because, at some point in time, you're going to stop playing competitive sports and you want to take the lessons you learn, the people you meet, and that's going to carry you a lot further. So let's do this real quick. All right. I mentioned to you, I got a wonderful sponsor. They're great. Their name is Ruby. I'm going to play a quick ad and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about OCU's season this year. We'll get into a little bit on Skyline High School's freshman there, YG, and what he's been contributing. Because I was just at the Skyline game last night, as I was mentioning. They won in overtime. It was a great game. So we'll get into that right here after the break with Coach Mark Berokoff.
How the heck are you supposed to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day? And as a mom, I think I figured it out. Ruby. Ruby is the only way. Open, pour, shake, drink. My kids love Ruby because it tastes so good. And when in your life are you going to get this many fruits and vegetables in just one serving? Like I get to eat my McKee berry. Trust me on this one. Try it once and you will not regret it. Your kids won't even complain that they have to drink it. It's that good.
And you won't regret going to goruvi.com and using code ADAM15 to get 15% off your purchase. That's goruvi, GORUVI.com, and use code ADAM15 for 15% off your purchase. All right, we are back from our little break. I've watched that ad. I don't know how many times doing this, and I'm like, I need to look up what a maki berry is. When I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I did have a Ruby this morning after my workout. It really does taste great. So everyone go check it out. All right, Coach. So let's get into a little bit on OCU. It's an NAIA school. It's a really difficult school, I think, academically, from what I've heard. Right? I mean, it's to qualify is not easy, right? You have to be a good student. And I got to watch you all play it was at the Abe Lemons Classic. Is that what it is?
Yep.
At the beginning of the year. Great turnout. Awesome environment. So talk to me, I guess, first a little bit about the university. And then let's get into the season a little bit, because I know that it seems like you've kind of had it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and hopefully you're on the good part here as it wraps up.
Yeah. So Oklahoma City University, first off, in terms of basketball, everybody probably knows for 30 some years, we were a Division I basketball program. We had one of the most famous coaches ever coached here, which was Abe Lemons. And we are probably the most historic NEI program in the country. We have the most national championships with 6. We have 15 NBA players that played here. We have some of the most famous NEI players. We have the basketball tradition is very, very rich here. In terms of the school itself, yes, it's a very tough academic school. The standards are high. Our business school's top 30 in the country. Our dance and performing arts is one of the best in the country. We've had, movie stars that go here and people that go on to Broadway and do really good things in that. But Oklahoma City is a very good academic institution. Number one, it's about 3,000 kids or 3,000 students. We have 20 plus sports. We have 72 national championships through amongst all of our sports. We have the winningest softball coach in the history of softball, regardless of the level. So we had an Olympian a couple of years ago. So Oklahoma City is academically really strong, and athletically is one of the most historic athletic institutions in the country in terms of NAIA sports.
I love it. That's cool to hear. I didn't realize all of that was true. That's amazing. And so you've got a program here. How long have y'all been in the NAIA?
Since 1980, I want to say 1986.
Oh, okay, got it. So it's been a long run.
30 plus, yeah.
Got it. Okay. And so you kind of started out the year. I know you had I think it was a pretty big upset in one of the games that I was at early on in the year. And now, just kind of following along with the team, you've won 4 out of 5. Seems like maybe you're coming together at the right time. I'm trying to remember the guy. Was it Brandon and Avery? Two just absolute studs. We talk about YG and kind of his emergence, but just give me a little bit of commentary around how the season's been going this year.
Yeah, so we're very young. I mean, we start, YG starts as a freshman, Avery's a sophomore. We have one senior, our big kid Jack is a sophomore, and then we start a junior. So, and then we come off the bench with freshman. And in our league is very heavy D1, D2 transfer heavy, an older league. So we kind of did something different. And I'll tell you, when you have a young team, we've been up and down. Like you did this. That's how we've been. I mean, we've knocked off. The Masters was pretty highly ranked. We've beat. We just beat USAO Science and Arts the other day, who's on top of one of the top teams in our league. Sagu, we just knocked off one of the top teams in our league, a top 25 team. So we've had really good wins. We've also had some questionable losses, but when you're young, that happens. We've been beat on an 80-foot buzzer beater in the Abe Lemons Classic. So
I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah. But anyways, we have been up and down, but that's what you get with the young team. But what I like about our group is we have really started to play well here in the last month. And that's a sign of a young team that's starting to figure it out. And a lot of people say, well, maybe you're starting to figure it out too late. But I think we're figuring it out at the exact right time. And we've won 4 of the last 5 or 5 out of our last 7. And I'm really excited about the future of the program. Brandon's our only senior, and he's had a great career here. But the future is really bright. We get, 13 or 14 of our guys back from this year's team, and they'll be back for 3 more years. So the future is really good for Oklahoma City basketball.
That's awesome. I think Jack, he's the big Australian.
Yeah.
That dude has the loudest voice of any human being alive. Yeah. He talks and you could hear him in Dallas, I'm pretty sure. Like people in McKinney are like, what's going on up there? Do you think, Coach, that with such a young team kind of peaking here late in the year, is that also part of a product of you get kids who were seniors in high school and they might have been the guy, right? They were the guy getting all the buckets. The coaches running all the plays through them. They were the talk of the town, whatever it is. And then they come to college and they have to adjust to a role. Is there an adjustment period, not just to the speed of the game? Because like you mentioned, there's D1 and D2 kids who are there playing. There's a speed to the game, but also just an adjustment to acceptance of a role. Is that something that you're starting to see happen?
So that's a great topic you brought up. So I've been doing this for 30 years and I learned something new every year. What I didn't take into account this year was I knew we were going to be young, which is fine. That wasn't my worry. My worry, or not my worry, but what has ended up happening is I did not take into account when you bring in young kids who have, like you said, have been successful, were the best players on their team. A lot of these kids haven't experienced failure before. And so they come to college and they've got the weight room, they've got study hall, they've got classes, they've got practice, and it's a never ending cycle like for them. And it wears them down. And freshmen go through a process of adjusting to that, having to get up on their own or not having class on Monday till noon and they're trying to figure out, when do I get to the calf to eat? When do I get my shots up? And I think for freshmen, that's a lot. And that's any level. I think people question NEI, and I think they are really mistaken, because NEI is as good as a low major. A lot of these top level NEI teams are as good as low major D1s. And if you've seen, there's been some NEI teams this year that have beat D1s.
Yep.
And our league in particular, I can't speak for any of the NEI leagues out there, but our league is full of NEI or D1 and D2 transfers, guys that have played at the highest level that are playing NEI for whatever reason. And then you put an 18-year-old freshman against a 23, 24-year-old junior and senior. There's a whole different, there's man strength versus 18-year-old strength. And I think that's what happens to freshmen when they come into any level. And if you notice across the country, it's hard for freshmen to play at any level.
Yep.
And what we're doing, we start an 18-year-old freshman at our point guard spot. We bring off Clayton, Bo, James Cloud. These kids are all freshmen that come off of our bench, and we're throwing them out there for 32, 33 games. And that's kind of what happened for us. Freshmen are up and down, and when you're a young team, you're going to have up and down moments. So hopefully I touched on the topic that you talked about.
No, it's great. I think it's such a good point, and something that's often overlooked, especially, I don't want to be the get off my lawn, like guy who talks about the old times. I really don't. However, in the age of instant gratification, social media, I want something, transfer portals, all this kind of stuff, I think there's something to be learned about just grit. There's something to be learned about struggles and getting through it. My sister's a writer for Yahoo Sports, and she interviewed Coach Spoelstra, and he talked about Jaime Jaquez and how they really liked him because he developed this sort of gritty attitude by competing for 4 years at the same college at UCLA. And I think there's just something about that I hope we see a bit of a return to, right? Which is this idea of like, when things are hard, I don't leave. When things are hard, I go through it. I stick with it. I build a community, build connections in a city. I think there's something that's just missing about that.
So what you're talking about is the direction we decided to do at Oklahoma City. The portal has changed everything. It has really changed for the high school kids. It's hurt them. But you can see different programs are using the portal and are being super, super successful. We as a staff, we just took a step back and said, what could we do to bring our culture what we want? How do we do that? And how do we do it differently than maybe anybody else? And we decided to go with high school freshmen. We have a ton of high school freshmen on our team, and we kind of went into Australia and got kids, but that's the route we took. We said, we would love for these kids to stay here for 4 years at Oklahoma City, graduate. We could build within. So when kids, we slowly build the process. You bring in a couple more high school kids that build into the culture, and it keeps building. So that's the direction we took. And it's a different thing than most people are doing. And it's a tough thing. You really got to be strong in your belief in what you're doing and what you're wanting to build, because high school freshmen, like I said, high school freshmen have not had failure, or college freshmen have not had failure. In high school, they're always the stud. They're the star. And if they have a bad game, they're going to have 3 really good games after that. In college, it's like sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 games in a row where they're really struggling. And then they start questioning themselves, am I really that good? But that's the route we took. So the portal is amazing. It's helped so many programs, and so many people are being really successful with it. We just decided to go a different route and do something different, and it's paid off for us. I really like where we're at.
Well, let's kind of start wrapping up here, but I do want to talk about one of those college freshmen, which, as I mentioned, played at Skyline, who I got to go watch. They won their first round playoff game in overtime over Woods Cross. It was a great game. And there's still, just kind of these remnants of YG at Skyline, right? Like what the imprint that he could have on that team. It's still a great team with some good guard play. You can tell there were some guys who were learned under him while he was there, and then also are stepping in to fill as best they can, right? I mean, it's hard to replace a guy like that. So as it seems like, as I've been following along, his role has just kind of steadily increased there. I think he's now your third leading scorer. I think he's leading the team in assists. What has his development meant to OCU this season? And has that been a big catalyst for, as you mentioned, winning 5 of the last 7 and 4 of the last 5?
Yeah, first off, Tim Drisdom sent me this text about this kid, and I'm like, all right, Tim, let's look at it. And you get a lot of texts from people you trust, and Tim is one guy that I trust 100%. He says, I've got a kid, no brainer, and it was YG. And I fell in love with this kid from the moment I saw him. Yes, he came into our program. He is a kid that I don't think has experienced much failure in his life in terms of basketball in Utah. And he came in here, chest all out, ready to go. And, he got kind of hit in the face right away that this is pretty good level of basketball. His numbers are great. He's averaging almost 11 a game, 3 boards, almost 4 assists. He's shooting almost 40% from 3. He's had some 20-plus games this year. He's really playing well of late. So what YG has figured out, things like I can't do certain things that I got away with in high school. And that's been the biggest thing with him, coaching him, is he's a sponge. Like, he really is wanting to learn the game. But when you have had some habits that you were able to take advantage of in high school, some of the layups that he does that he got away with in high school, those things are getting slammed off the glass here in our league. And he has really adjusted well every single game. Like, playing off of 2 feet is something big for him. I always called Tim and said, Tim, this is what we got to work with YG in the spring and summer. Help me with this. And then Tim talks to YG, and it's like the next day he's working on that. He's a sponge. He's academically brilliant. He's great in the classroom. He's a great teammate. He's for an 18-year-old, we ask him to do a lot. And I think sometimes as a coaching staff, we don't look at him as an 18-year-old. And I think sometimes we forget that, like, this kid is really 18 and 19 years old, and we're asking him to run our team. And the experience that he's getting this year is invaluable. He's been great. I mean, to get a kid out of Salt Lake City in Oklahoma, I mean, we were able to get an absolute gem and beat out a lot of people for a kid that's really helped our program. He's been amazing. I love it.
And I was actually excited to see. I've been a huge Jordan Oberholzer fan. I was excited to see you guys offered him. I've watched him play since he was in middle school. Got to watch him play with Congo last year. He's another one of those kids that I think is gonna do some great things. So I'll be pulling for him to become a star someday. So that was really great. Well, Coach, we're wrapping up here at the end of our time. So tell me, what does the rest of the season look like? Is it for sure? Is there a tournament that like the NCAA tournament equivalent for the NAIA? How does that work? Or is your season like we play our conference tournament and then it's over? Tell me, what does the rest of the season look like for you, and how can people follow along?
So for us, I think what's going to end up happening, regardless of what happens, I think we're done on Saturday. We didn't take care of business in a game a couple weeks ago, so I think we're going to end up. I think we're going to end up in 9th out of what 12 teams in our league, which disappointing, but we're finishing strong. But no, there is so we have the Sooner Athletic Conference tournament. You got to finish in the top 8, and then after that we have a national tournament, which is one of the most historic national tournaments in the country. It's in Kansas City. It's just like an NCAA tournament with the bracket and that. So that's coming up here in mid-March. And I think we've got 2 or 3 teams in our league that are going to make a run for a national championship. Our league is really strong this year. But our conference tournament here is in about a week. Our season our season ends on Saturday for everybody in our league. And, for us, if that's how it ends up, we're going to get back in the weight room here really soon and get back going. And a lot of these young guys are super excited to keep working. And, but no, if people want to follow along in mid-March in Kansas City is the NAIA National Tournament. And it's one of the toughest tournaments in the country. So it's something people really need to keep an eye on. And don't sleep on the NAIA. It's incredible level of basketball. And, it's very tough to play, and you don't see what we're doing. Many freshmen and sophomores playing. It's a lot of juniors and seniors. So, but yeah, I think people really need to do their research on the NAIA. Kids out in the Utah area, it's a very good level of basketball.
I totally agree. I mean, I've been preaching this for a while, that regardless of the level, if you can go play in college, if you have an opportunity to play in college, and if you have an opportunity to have part or all of your college covered financially because of the game of basketball, then you are a blessed individual. You should be excited about that. It should be celebrated by everybody. And to your point, I mean, D2, NAIA, D3, JUCO, even some of the NCCAA schools, there's really good basketball out there to be played. And if you can continue your career, players, and that's awesome. And parents, it's not D1 or bust. There's a ton of D1 players who are playing at these other levels. So
yeah, and you're spot on. And I know we're wrapping this up, but my last thing to say is, parents, please, and kids, do your research and make sure you find the right fit. Sometimes the higher level is not the right fit. Do your research. Make sure you find the right fit with the coaching staff, the institution, academically, the team. Do your research, and please stop worrying about the level. Find the right spot for you as a family.
Yep, athletically and academically, right? And geographically sometimes. I mean, there is components to that as well. So very well said, Coach. Thank you so much for coming on, everyone. You can follow Coach on Twitter. I can't call it X. I just can't do it. I'm so sorry, Elon. You'll never listen to this. But follow Coach. You can follow along with the OCU team also on Twitter. And best of luck to you as you wrap up the season. And I'm looking forward to maybe I'll try to catch a game. It sounds like next year when you've built this team and y'all are playing in the NAIA tournament. It'd be fun to go out and watch that. All right. Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.